So I found some really cool, well, I bought all these terrain pieces off of a Humble Bundle that was going on for like, I don't know, it was like 20 bucks or less, and it was like $200 worth of 3D files to do terrain and different buildings, some really cool monoliths and stuff like that, towers, Corinthian columns, everything. And the so I finally got it unpackaged, was looking through them, and was like, cool, I'm going to use these. They have an interesting locking system that I will show you. Because I have this ready. See? There we are. So it uses these little X clips that go into these models, and those are cool, but they're kind of hard to move around once you have them locked in. And you know, 3D prints are not very kind when something might go wrong, and like maybe the opening of the hole, this hole is not developed right, so this little X will not be able to go in there properly or something like that. And it's not as fast as I'd like it to go together. So I went exploring, and there was actually a really cool system that I found that does this. And it's all magnets. And I found that it was really, really simple to just take the open source base that he has on Thingiverse, and take the files that I have and kind of make a nice happy medium between them. So the way that those work is that there are these little open frame pieces that you glue the terrain on top of, and in each of these little holes you put little round magnets. And so when you collide them together, the magnets spin inside the thing and they attach to each other, and it's beautiful. You can just reorganize everything as quickly as you'd like. So the trick to that is that you have to arrange the file a certain way. So I already have, oh, it's done. Always have a spatula. Oh, these look great. Perfect. All right, sweet. First 4 tiles. And they're white because, you know, I printed them in a color that you can't see on camera. Great. Nope. I'm gonna there it is. There, terrain. Is that one? I did a little sewer one. It's like the corner of a street. And then like yeah. Yeah, these are all street parts currently. Cool. So, the way that these are going to work is that part is going to get glued underneath this. I want to paint everything, Short Trooper says. Yes, you will be given these files very soon, as soon as I have created the whole thing. Yes. So that unit gets glued under here after you put the magnets in it, and they can all clap together. Yeah. So, the way you get this file to do what you want it to do, so this is how I brought the files in initially. You can kind of see how they have that chamber system underneath, so that it can have that interlocking bit that they sell for their Dragon Lock system. But if you want to alter it, it's easy enough to just go select all these and change the Z offset position, which is the position it is vertically in space. So right now they're all centered to the board and spaced appropriately and stuff like that. So you kind of just see, like, I can go off the board if I wanted to print them in the sky. But I want to basically take away all that material. And what I found was that for this file specifically, and for all the Dragon Lock ones, it's going to be -5.23. And then that makes it so it prints nice and flat in here on the print bed. Is the other one done yet? Nope, that's not done yet. True. I'm actually going to be sending them to Lockerbie. He's going to be the one painting these. I'm pretty sure. That is my part. I will print. He will paint. These look really good. Nice. They have a really nice texture to them too. They look really good with paint. So yeah. So that's how I got the file ready. Since I already printed these, I will get some different tiles in here and do this again. Let's do these 4 alley pieces. Why not? So yeah, little corners of alleys and stuff like that. So double click. So another thing, so the programs you use to make all this stuff happen, to take these STL files and turn them into what they call G-code that the printer can actually use, are called slicers. And so there's tons of different ones. There's ones that are made specifically for certain printers that are like Maker Farm and stuff, or Maker Bot, and stuff like that. And some of them are open source, like Cura used to be open source until I think someone bought them. I use one that's off-brand. Well, not off-brand, but it's a separate one from all the printers, because mine is also a kit, so it doesn't actually have a company associated with it except for the company that bundled the parts together. So I'm using a software called Simplify 3D, and I appreciate it the most because not only does it have a profile already for the printer that I made, like just straight out of the box, but Yes, the clean garage. I'm guessing that's Art or Danny. Yeah. So in Simplify 3D, you can have all these. That doesn't show up because I'm capturing a window, not a desktop. Oh well. But yeah, you can set your. These are pre-made files. I got them from a bundle. Are you the webcam? Yes. On Perception Studio, I tried to do an NDI source for another camera, but it made the audio choppy, unfortunately. So there was actually a nice camera shot on everything back there. But yeah, I'm using. Are you on the webcam? No, I'm using a DSLR. I don't have a webcam with me. Using the cam link. Right. So it's when it started off, it was a fairly pricey program, but it has a lot of really nice features. Like you can set temperatures to change at different levels or stuff like that. You can get the heat bed to do different things at different layers and stuff like that. So like if you're printing with PLA, the first thing you need to do is like the bed has to be hotter to start off with so it gets a nice good grab, but you don't want it to stay hot while the top part is cooling, because then you get warping because of the cooling issues, because PLA likes to cool quickly when it's printing. But ABS likes to stay hot all the time, so you want everything, and that's why you also have enclosed chambers. Oh no, my camera stopped working again. Yikes. What is going on? Great. I prefer PLA. ABS just tends to be more of a hassle to work with. Why does it look like cheese? That is, wrong program. There it is. That is the customary file color that it comes in. Otherwise, it's kind of an orange when it's not highlighted. These are cobblestones. Thank you. Oh yes, back behind me. So, back there are a bunch of laser discs that I salvaged from a Craigslist run a long time ago. Most of those were just really terrible movies that I couldn't care less about saving, so I ditched the covers and everything and put them on racks. But they are for future projects. When I get my laser cutter up and running, I want to etch those so they have like a wall clock kind of feel to them, but like as a really nice artwork kind of thing. So I'm gonna etch into the laser disc of the scene of the movie or something like that, or like relabel them so it's a different movie or whatnot. Yeah, so that's a future project at some point. There it is. Thank you. Yeah. So I was going to talk about this file again. So, oh yeah, and then, so yeah, the basic thing is that you want a program that's going to give you the most features to control your printer as like down to precision as you can, so you can get the best result. So I take my print, and I am wanting to still do that thing where I take these guys and I'm going to glue them onto a magnetic base So I do -5.23 like the other ones. It lowers it down into the bed and it will now print flat. So I can go into my process here, and you guys can't see it, but I have it set for a primary layer, and these are all things I will show you here. So these are all the tiles that came with that set. There is a bunch of them, and it makes me so happy because I'm looking forward to making a bunch of these. But yeah, so these are the printing profiles. Even they recommend using PLA. It also talks about this 150 micron layer, which is the amount of distance. We should watch them before you turn them into art. Sure. I did save the ones that were actually good. Like I have I have the copies of the trilogy, the original trilogy, Star Wars. Yes, so much cheaper on our own, and I can control the quality, like, so I know what I'm using is gonna look pretty. Usually, like, the default for my printer is it'll print a thickness of 0.2 millimeters, and this is talking about how many, like, completely filled in layers, like how thick you want the first layers and the last layers to be, because that's where your strength of your part is going to be and where your cleanliness is going to be for your part. Like if you only do like one shell, one layer thick, it's going to be very, very flimsy, and it will not keep, like, this is super rigid. Like I can't really even bend it. But there's still infill in there, like there's empty voids in this, but because of how many layers I was using, it made it really nice and strong. And they sit nice and flat on my table, so that's nice. So yeah, if you're just going for like the shape and you're gonna be casting it later or something like that, make it out of nothing. Like you can just make it one shell, and it'll survive a casting as much as you want in silicone or something like that, and then you just cast a whole bunch of them after that. I actually was considering doing that as well, because it would also be faster. That you can, like this, these 4 took an hour and a half to print. That was after that happened for the entire night. This was still printing when I got up in the morning because it was supposed to take 14 hours, and that didn't happen. Yeah. So yeah, that's, and then the infill percentage is how much extra plastic it's going to fill the voids that are naturally in the part, because every 3D object file is basically a shell with empty space inside it, and the program has to determine how much you want to fill that up, so that either like the plastic that you're printing down can fall in and not ooze out, or if you want a solid part, you can say 100% infill and it will be a solid part. And then rafts are another thing that you can do. Some people like it. It also depends on your printer and how well it works. I print on a glass bed. Some people print on blue painter's tape. Some people print on a bunch of other stuff. But the reason I print on a glass bed is because it is really easy to get off the bed, and it also leaves a very, very smooth underside. So if you had a part that needed to be really glossy on one side or really, really flush and perfect, you print that side down against the bed and it will be perfectly flat. Questions. So would you use infill to make loaded dice? You could. They wouldn't be very balanced to begin with, just based on the way that the printer. It would be easier to make a resin mold and then cast some object inside it to make it loaded. But you could definitely make a file of it empty, and you have it like a floating something inside of it that's like a solid object, and then you fill the support, and it would load it a bit. Do you always need 100% infill, or would you do like supports? So the way that infill actually, I'll show you. I will find a different file that will allow me to demonstrate. Bum, bum, bum. Alright, I'm gonna get rid of these guys for a second. Alright, this is a screaming tree. So I can go into the profile and say I want it to be 25% infill. Well, yeah. Nice. So I will tell it to prepare for print, and then if you look through, this gives me layer by layer printing. This is what infill is. So all these little squares is what it's telling it to do with 25% infill. So it goes back in, it prints all this shell, and then it fills in the void so that as it prints up, it is able to basically keep building on top of that. You can also do, different printer style, like my resin printer, which is also done. Yeah, no, it's not. No, it's not. Never mind. My resin printer can do voids and supports inside things, but it will not do infill like this. So it's a little different. It depends on the type of printer you're using. This one specifically, what I'm making it for is FDM, which is deposit printing. So yeah, you can see it kind of is expected to build up layers. And yeah. Typical infill percentage, it depends on how strong you want your part to be. But generally I usually keep it around 25. Printers in action, are you planning to show that later? I'm going to, as soon as I make this file, I'm going to show how to level the bed and then start it running and what the processes look like for that. So get rid of you. Ba 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 ba. So I'll take these. Plop. Ooh, sewer tiles. I like it. All right. Tap, tap, grab it all, -5.23 into the bed, so I can glue it onto my magnetic bases that I want to do. I need to change that infill percentage back down to 15. My camera stopped working again. Give me 1 second, I'm gonna switch it over to different capture card. There we go. Better. Is it mainly a matter of weight, cost, rigidity, or time? A lot of those different factors, yes. Obviously, if you use more infill, you're using more plastic, so it will cost you more. And if you're using more plastic, the machine is having to do more stuff, so it is going to take you more time. Matter of weight, it depends on the application more than anything. Because if you're needing it to just be a showpiece and not be structural, you don't need a whole lot of infill, so you don't need to necessarily use it. Yeah. Yes. Maximum. I mean, it also depends on what you're going for. Like, if you're looking for something that's going to be like a mounting bracket or something like that you're making at home and you've designed it yourself, you want to basically do as strong as you can, and if you don't really care too much about how it's going to look, you can do 100% infill. The issue that 100% infill has is that if your printer is not tuned completely right, you can get oozing out of the prints when the layers are lining up, because if you are having too much plastic go down onto the layer, it's got to go somewhere. So it'll ooze out over the side, just like a pot with too much water will have that like surface tension and just kind of flop out of the sides. So it depends. If you give it a little bit of room to go back on in the inside, then you get some better results. It just depends. Yeah. So yeah. Let me get this file put into the printer, and then we will take that camera over there. Ba-ba-ba-na-na-na. Preparing for printing. So now you can kind of see, because I put it at that layer height, it's a nice flat layer at the bottom, and then it starts printing all that texture. I'm gonna save that tool path. From Short Trooper, what if I was going to build a wearable costume piece like a gauntlet or shoulder armor? What would be the infill process for that? That, depending on the thickness of like the gauntlet and stuff like that, you probably could go for like 90 to 100%, because you're probably also going to go back in and get rid of the print lines anyway, so that oozing really wouldn't be as something as you'd be concerned about. Yeah. So yeah, for that you definitely want it to be a little stronger, just because it's going to be such a thin piece if it's as a gauntlet. You can also have elements that are like solid, and then maybe sections of it, depending on how you're printing it, that are more hollow, if you'd like. What are these going to be maps in the show, or are they personal use? They are for the show. Hopefully to be able to use them for Solons when we get back to it. These are 2x2 squares. So these are in-game scale, 10 feet by 10 feet. Yeah, and these, the ones I'm working on right now on the screen, are also 2x2 squares. And some of the files I have are 4x4 squares. I have some really large terrain sets that would probably take up my entire printing bed. Let's see, what else do we got? So you can 3D print a new port connection for Danny? I wish. This can only make the physical object, not the electronic connections. Nazgul Rodeo asks, what sort of resolution does a printer need to have for this sort of use? Honestly, you can get away with a pretty low quality one. This company actually recommends like a basic printer to start off with. I will tell you. I don't want to log into that. Printer recommendations. They recommend the Ender, I think. Ender 3. So, this is what they are recommending. It's fairly standard type of go away. Let's see what the resolution is saying it is. Doesn't say. Well, that's the one that they talk about in their files. Mine can go pretty low in microns, but it's like you can get away with a lot. You, especially since like it's doing cobblestone streets that need to have a bit of character anyway. Yeah, no, you can get away with some really, really nice printers. The one that I'm using myself, Maker Farm. I built this one out of a kit. This is the one I'm using, but mine is black. The thing I like about it most is that it's this one giant square frame that cannot move, essentially, once it's all together. It's beautiful. And very, very strong. There's actually a picture, it's not here anymore, but they had, I want to find it, because it's really funny. There it is. Yeah, this is how they said that it's so strong you can do yoga on top of it, and it will still print beautifully. So that kind of sold me on the rigidity of this printer. But yeah, so this is the one I've got. This is an upgrade kit. Mine is this one. But yeah. Oh, someone went into Streamlabs and changed my profile. Oh well. Wah, wah. So you can print. So let's see. Looking for other resolution. Does printer need? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I think I answered all the questions. I'm going back to here. I need to change something really quick. There we go. Fix that. No, you have to find your own Yoga Girl Short Trooper. That's doesn't come with. Silly. Alright, I'm going to move camera and show you how to level bed and set things going. I think I already put it in the right places. Yep, that's there. Okay, moving camera. Drink up, move down. Drink up, move down. Now, we gotta change the legs heights. I was hoping to have a second camera for this, but that didn't work out. There we go. That's better. Inflatable alarm clock? No. Okay. Nosy. Alright, fair enough. Alright. Need my file. Okay. So, I actually want to tune it. So I have a thing here where I can actually preheat the bed and everything, and it will do it. Because you don't want to balance the bed while it's cold, because that will be a different shape than it will actually be when it's warm. Because things expand and all that stuff. So I have this guy. This is a feeler gauge. It has a ton of, this is something I bought at Harbor Freight because I was tired of trying to use pieces of paper. This gives me an exact width of things. So it goes all the way from 0.8 to 0.04, which is basically like nothing. But the one I use is 0.4 because in the world of printing, that is the diameter of my nozzle, so that when it contacts the bed, it is what is coming out exactly. Cool. No more questions yet. So right now, there's a nice little wad of stuff that is kind of caked on the end of the thing, and I just squish it off. My laser printer is currently at 1281 layers out of 1948, so that's going to still be a little bit longer, but I will definitely let you guys peek in there. So I go into the prepare screen, I tell it to run the level bed program, and it's going to take different points across the entire thing to through software level the bed. I eventually want to make a device to actually mechanically raise and lower the platform. I actually have the stepper motors and everything to do it. I just haven't designed the files myself yet. So, as you can see, this kind of flies through here pretty easily, which means that it is too high. And I have a little knob up here that allows me to drop it down or up and all that good stuff. So what you're kind of wanting to do is keep raising and lowering it until it can't fit through. Well, it can just fit through without moving the actual nozzle head. So right there, I have like a bit of resistance, but it's okay. So nothing else is moving on the platform. So I go, yep, and it moves over to the next location, and I do the process again. I should probably move my arm out of the way when I do it. Hey Mitchie, we are going through the process of how 3D printer works. So yeah, right now, nothing. Drop it down. Still good. That I can't get through. That one I can. So that's an acceptable result there. And keep doing this process. That feels good. There is printer attachments that you can get to like have a sensor on it and basically run this whole process on its own, which is also kind of what I want to do with my idea of having it mechanically do it first and then fill in the gaps with software, because I prefer having it mechanically right over software, because then the printer doesn't have to do as much. It doesn't have to actively change its z-axis every time to correct something that's wrong in the bed. I also have a second extruder. So in here is the hot end, the cool down unit, and this is the extruder feeding chamber, essentially. There's a gear in here that grabs onto the filament and pushes it into the hot end. But I haven't got it set up to do two-headed printing yet. And the reason I want to is because you can print material that is dissolvable support. And so when you're done with a print, like a really big print, and you're like, oh great, now I have to unscrew all the stuff, you just dunk it in water. And in a few minutes or hours, the part is clean, no supports, and you didn't have to do any work. That can't get through. Back off one. Nope, a little bit more. There it is. And now it's happy. It will home the bed. Boop, boop. So it's homing all the axes and it's happy. I have my file that I will put into the machine. And now it will do better. Currently, right now, it is heating the bed to the proper temperatures. Right now I have this set at 50, but it's going up to its operating temperature of 60 degrees Celsius. Which, it's not that hot on the glass, it's hot in there, in the red part. That is the actual hot part. I'm just kind of making this nice and warm. I also have a digital heat gauge to kind of let me know whether I am doing it properly or not. Right now it is reading 50 degrees Celsius. That's just to keep your parts in order and whatnot. Just so you can maybe, like, if your thing is saying it's 60 degrees but your actual heat bed is not, you can compensate for that, just so everything is working properly. It's now priming the pump so that when it starts printing it actually has plastic in its nozzle before it just kind of goes to town. And now it's doing what it calls the brim, which for PLA parts is kind of a nice feature because it basically gives it a little bit of a fence so that air doesn't just come up and cool it down really quickly on the first layer. Is kind of the thought process on it. And does that a couple times. Oh, that's so much better than it did the first time I tried this. Yeah, because, like, you can kind of see the spot where I tried it before with the giant array of 20 pieces, and it didn't stick at all to that first one. Now it does the first layer. So I haven't needed to wash this in a while because I use a sticking agent on it, and it helps it adhere to the glass. But every once in a while you kind of take it off, you wipe it down with alcohol, make it nice and clean again, and then you spray it with hairspray. Just watching this thing go all day. So yeah, that is what it does, and now it's going to be printing for the next hour and a half. But I will now let you guys peek inside. Hopefully there's enough cord to get there. Of the laser printer. So this is going to get a little wonky. So you can kind of see what's going on in there. There's a bunch of stuff being printed upside down. Oh no. Well, I see one of the parts that kind of failed. So that's the other thing, you're fighting gravity in a laser printer. So you have to make sure that your supports are correct, otherwise they will not survive. And then you'll have things that you'll have to pry off the print bed after it's done. But most of it looks good, so that's nice. You can kind of see that action that's happening, where it kind of does that dip. That is so that it can bring more material to the next layer as the metal bed moves up, and then it runs the laser across the surface again, printing that next section. It's not the most amazing thing until it's actually out, but I can show you a part that I did do already. I made a mini for a friend. I'm going to put this back because that is the show and tell for the printers currently. Ah! There we go. Back to normal. All right. Your fighting gravity should be listed under basics to 3D printing. You are not wrong. So, about fighting gravity, I will also go in to talk about how to set up a file for that type of printer. So for that specifically, I use a different program, and this is for that specific printer. And you notice that it kind of shows you setting up your print bed with everything right this way. So, come on, give me there it is. So, shows you the door, right, left, and there's also this green and red field. Prints have more success on the side that dips less. So that action that's happening where it kind of goes zoop and it levels back out to print a next layer. The more cavitation from the current that it makes when it drops down, the more stress you're going to have on that part. So if you have a very large, well attached to surface thing, it'll do fine. If you have a very delicate something that you know will just immediately lose parts if there's too much pull from the machine, they're going to go away. So you put them closer to the green side and you'll have more success. Every laser printer has a different way of how that works. Some of them raise the entire plate, slosh the material between, and then it lowers back down. Mine dips. There's a ton of different ways. Yeah. But also, when you line things up and you kind of get supports and everything onto it, you have to think about it not printing from the ground up. You have to think of it printing upside down. So you are actually printing that way. So your parts, however you arrange them, have to kind of not be floating in midair, because it's got to connect to a source. And I'll kind of show you how that works with a file. Oh, shush. I was registered on another computer. Come on. That's fun. Well, one sec. One second. Where'd the music go? I had music playing. Yeah. Sheesh. Hmm. So, Super Dude Guy. Stupid. Oh, that's fun. It's trying to use their program, and I just downloaded their newest software, and of course it doesn't let me register that program. That's fun. I'll go back to their last model, so give me a sec. Peel body. So yes, questions. Super Dude Guy asks, what do you prefer, the resin printer or the filament additive printing? It honestly depends. It depends on how big of something I'm printing and how pretty I want it to be. If I'm going for something that needs to be large and structural, I will definitely hit it into my FDM printer, because it's just going to be a much more structurally sound part. I cannot get as high a resolution on my filament printer as I can my resin printer, so if it's needing to be like minis, which the part that I was going to show you, minis can take such a detail. Which my resin printer cannot do. My filament printer cannot do. So that's definitely the trade-offs of like, do you want to print big or do you want to print high resolution? So that's the biggest things. We have them. Beard and a Batman. We made minis for all of us. It's just we haven't painted them yet. They're all blue right now. Hey, General Davis. Thank you. Doing good, thanks. Thanks, Mitchie. Sarah asks, so it's HD for resin, standard definition for filament, or would you use resin, or would the resin be ultra high def? I would say the laser printer that I have would be high definition. There are other printers that are even more expensive than mine that would be the ultra high definition, that can print without even like being able to tell that there's lines on the thing. Like I can still look at this and be like, oh, I can see lines, but this is like machinable and cleanable. You can just take some other ones and be like, this is done. General Davis asks, are you printing parts for Percy today? I am not. I am actually printing terrain files for Lockerbie to be able to paint later on. I showed people earlier. I'll do some more focusing and show you again. There it is, kinda. There it is. So yeah, making terrain files. Should probably put this on automatic focus. But yeah, if I do print anything for Percy, it will be like eye blinks and stuff like that. Justin Chavers asks, can you make me a wife that rinses her dishes out? No. Super Dude Guy 15 says, I worked in a design space for a time and we only had filament printers, but I would bug the director for a resin one to help teach students how to use it. What model is the resin one? That one is a Pio Poly Moai. I can show you what that looks like. Pio Poly Moai, which this is the first generation of their printer. They have a second definition one now. That's the one I have. Moai. And it was a very, very nice... Loser, you're stuck with me, says Haley. But yes. So, this is the one that my laser printing gets done on. And it is so pretty. I'm sure there's some tuning that I could probably do to it. I haven't really, as far as like going out of the box and letting it do its thing, I haven't like fine-tuned adjust the laser or anything like that. I just was like, I'm happy, and it prints. Yeah. So, and it can do some crazy, amazing things. Like, these are all things that were printed on this thing. I just haven't really taken the time to fine-tune it. Well, that's boring. Either way. Yep. So that's what it looks like internally. There's very little going on. That's the thing that raises and lowers the vat. That is the arm that plunges into this vat and gets shot at with a laser. This is the Galvo, the laser array, basically. That there's two little mirrors that kind of position the laser where it needs to be on the head. Yeah, so a little higher. See, there it is. Two little mirrors that shoot the laser at the build plate. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Alright. Back to what I was doing. So, hopefully this will work now. Run it. Register product. Well, that's fun. Can't show you how the other product works. I don't have that program on here either. Well. No, that's still working. I will do it by show. So when you are printing on a bed, you're going to have parts printing upside down, like that, and they need to have little spots to connect to actual supports back to the bed. Otherwise, there's nothing here. It'll start printing out in the middle of space, and it doesn't mean anything to it. So it prints here, and then it just keeps going this way, instead of thinking of it normally how it prints from bottom up. So all these voids that have nothing have to have a support connected to each of them, otherwise they'll just fall out and drain into the pool, and yeah. So that's why when you look at this kind of part, you see all these little connected points, which you have to account for in the program. So printing with a resin printer is a lot more finicky. If even on the print that I made here, there's a part that I actually have to fix with a Dremel, because I took away a support because I was like, that's gonna look ugly if I leave it there. So I took it off. But if you look right there at the bottom of the guitar, there's that weird little bubble. That's because there wasn't anything supporting that section of the guitar, so it moved because it tried to print in the middle of nowhere. So I have to fix that by going back in with a Dremel and sanding off that extra bit of material. So more supports the better, but also be mindful of where you're putting your supports and how you orient your piece in the chamber. Because like I can print it like this exactly, but I actually printed this at this angle because I didn't want to have a whole bunch of supports on the piece. I wanted them to be on the back, where if I had to sand them off or anything like that, they would be in the least noticeable places. So I wound up printing it like this with a little bit of a tilt, so that it would get, like, all the supports would be underneath and along the back side, and it wouldn't ever touch the guitar or anything like that. And then, because the other one's not done yet, I will illustrate with photos how, so yeah, usually I have a pair of flush cutters. These are just wire snippers, where you just go to town on taking the thing apart. And then you guys see you have these little nubbins from where the supports were before. Those you'll have to sand apart and stuff like that. This is SLS printing is another really cool selective laser sintering. It basically is a vat of powder where it shoots a laser down onto the first layer of powder, fusing the plastic together. A arm comes across, lays another layer of powder across it. A laser comes back over again, fusing that layer to the last layer, and so on and so on. So then you have to dig the part out from this giant vat of powder and clean it off. But you get some really, really strong parts from that. And they do that with metal too. So that's really cool. That is other things that I do not have the funding to have in my wheelhouse. Yeah, General Davis. This is the home garage, the original fat fortress. Anyway, I will show you how once a print in that laser printer would come off, how you clean them and start them on their curing process, because unlike those where you can just take that print and it's done, like the plastic is cooled and whatnot, you're good. For this, you actually have a system that you have to go about to finish the part. So in here, this is my vat of very, very highly concentrated alcohol. I think it's like the same type of alcohol you would use to clean like electronics and stuff. It's like 90% or something like that. And so you would take your part. Oh no. Well, printing that again. Yeah, that sucks. Other thing about these are very, very brittle. I need to get some tougher resin, because once you drop one, they just kind of explode. That's okay. I kind of wanted to print it again anyway, because I wasn't happy with the guitar. That's okay. So yeah, you take your part right off of the print bed, you stick it in your bath of alcohol, wipe it down. I want to get a ultrasonic cleaner, because those make it really, really nice. But yeah, you have a nice brush, put it in the bath, get it all cleaned off, and then you there's different theories about this section as well, where you want to always cure it in a UV chamber. So I made my own little one. You can see what it looks like. It's all glowy. And basically just surrounds the part in UV light so that it can cure. Some people just put their objects straight in to a UV source and that's it, they're good. Other people have said, and it's a pretty well accepted consensus, that if you put it in water and let it cure within that you actually are going to have a stronger part, because oxygen will actually cause the part to kind of like oxidize and degrade before it can actually get to cure. So you let it cure in a bath of water and it does better, basically. You get a cleaner print, basically. That's true. Very, very true. It's all good. I mean, resin is not expensive, and the amount of resin that it takes to print this is, I'm not concerned about. It's fine. It just is a thing. Yeah. I think that's all the knowledge I have for you today, since I can't de-sprue what's printing currently. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. But apart from that, yeah, I think that's all I got for you all today. Went through all the steps, and that guy's got. It's been 28 minutes now. Still got another hour on the big printer. Yeah. Also happy to take recommendations of things to print. How much of your own modeling do you do? I do a bit. I made our logos in 3D, which I modeled myself. You see on the back there the orange and blue stuff, that is a CNC machine. I didn't model those, but used parts to build it. The spindle for it on the CNC machine, I did have to model that because nobody had made a rotozip mount for it yet, so I had to make that. Seeing if there's anything lying around here that I can show you that I made. Ooh, I did do some modeling. I made a Vault Boy for a friend of mine that I never finished painting. I also then broke the head off that I have to now glue back on. But I made a Vault Boy with his hairstyle, and I never made glasses for him. And his personality, which was... So I modeled this dude myself. Kind of see him. Of course, I make everything super bright. There he is. There he is. All right. So that's that dude. I modeled him to look like a Vault Boy. A little logo. It was a big logo. It was like that big. I want to make dice at some point. Yeah, it was kind of weird. He had an actual full mohawk. Mine is just the hair back kind of look. But yeah, I want to do a mold for a two-part dice where the logo, our studio logo, is inside of a clear die in color. That'd be cool. Yeah. General Davis asks, have you heard of the game Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds? It came out after Attack of the Clones back in 2002. I've never heard of that one. No. Was that a minifigure type play? I'm not sure. I know there used to be, and probably still is, a free blueprint for Braille dice. That was cool. Only for PC strategy game. Cool. Yeah, most of us, I think I'm the only PC player in the group. But even then, I don't play that much. Sure, yeah, I'll print some Braille dice. Why not? I think I'll definitely go a little bit more traditional for the dice that I'm looking for. Let's see the models progress. Oh, yeah. It's not going to be very exciting, unfortunately. Unfortunately, they look like white squares, so. It's just progressing layer by layer. You can kind of, well, I could feel it, but it's just going over. So on this side, because these are so very, very thin, it's not really doing very much infill except on this one because it's going to be thicker. There's going to be like larger cobblestones on this, so you can actually see there's a bit more striation than on here because this is already going to be fairly flattened out. This one's starting to work on its striations right now for its 15% infill. Yeah, no real texture at this point. See, and that one's working away, doing its thing. Come back here. Okay. We all will be. Yeah, we all, there was a sale on the, basically the whole series up to now for Elder Scrolls Online for PlayStation, and we're like, most of us had it, I didn't have it yet. So we decided to just all upgrade or buy it, and we're all gonna play it. This coming... Fair enough. Captain Oristown was Kitara, or Kitira. Nah, it's not random, it's all good. Thank you, Sarah, for the link. Not really at a texture point. How hard is it to create the 3D files? 3D models, though. It's not that hard. I use a couple different programs. Mesh Mixer is good for organic shapes, really simple organic shapes. Nobody could pronounce it, it's true. But SketchUp still does pretty well if you're wanting to make very blocky things, like if you're wanting to, like, oh, I need to make a holster or something like that, or something with very sharp edges. That is a very, very good program to use. Tinkercad, I think, has a program. Autodesk has really good stuff that I've been playing with. Yeah, so it's just more about getting used to how things work and how you can't really manipulate them in physical space. One thing I've also played around with, which is really fun, is to sculpt it in real life and then take my Xbox Kinect and take it over the thing using it as a 3D scanner, taking that model that I can then actually use, put it into a 3D software and refine it even back from that. So that's a really cool feature. Do you print keyboards? No, I do not. Right now I'm doing model terrain for Dungeons and Dragons. Roll it? Ooh, I could roll it. I might have the reel. Do I have the reel? I don't. Aww. Aura is tied with Starheart for my favorite in Son's Legacy, says General Davis. Sweet. I'm supposed to be working, just also getting distracted with 3D printing. Yeah. Thanks. So, yeah, I think that's all I've got to teach you for today. Hope you've enjoyed my little show and tell. And Danny will be coming up at 3 o'clock to do some drawing with y'all. And then, of course, Art and will be doing Cinephilia at 5:30. So stick around for the rest of the day. And thank you all for hanging out with me. Really appreciate it. Hope you all are doing good and staying safe and all that stuff. Yeah, see you around. Have a good one.